Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Jashodanandana Jayo Braja Jana Ranjana Jashodanandana Jayo Braja Ranjana Jashodanandana Jayo Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Jayo Braja Ranjana Jamuna Thiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Jamuna Thiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Jamuna Thiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari 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 Jaya Jamuna Thiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Jamuna Thiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Vishnupada Paramahansa Pariguru Jakacharya Statara Sati Shishima His Divine Krishna A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sangha Host Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaura Bhavina Shampuna Radha Kuligiri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Ganga Maya Ki Mai ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Tulasi Devi ki, Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda ki, Janitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Gauranga. So the whole idea is culture is the expression of devotion.
Вся идея культуры заключается в том, чтобы мочь выразить преданность.
Right? That the devotion will have to be applied.
Преданность она должна быть применена.
Right? And by that application, then it's done in a nice way.
И это применение оно должно быть прекрасным.
Because for Krishna, it's not just getting something done.
То есть для Кришны это не просто, чтобы так как-нибудь сделать.
It's actually appreciating the exchange between the devotees.
Для него важно взаимообмен между преданными.
Therefore, its application then is done in a very nice way.
Поэтому применение оно должно быть таким образом, чтобы все было прекрасно.
Therefore, cultured.
Для этого и есть культура.
Now, the interesting thing is that culture or art works because it's based on a science.
И интересная вещь в том, что культура и искусство – это наука.
That the science is why something works.
И наука в том, почему то или иное работает.
Right? What are we dealing with?
То, с чем мы имеем дело.
What are the various elements?
Каковы вот элементы, с которыми мы действуем.
Right? What are their qualities? What are their relationships?
Каковы качества и отношения.
Therefore, what results can be gained?
И в результате какой результат может быть достигнут.
Right? Through what methods?
Каким методом.
Right? That's fixed.
Это определено.
Means any one element may have many ways to accomplish it, but it's still within the science. It still works within the science.
То есть
No.
элементы. Ну и это наука. Есть много путей, как можно достичь того или иного, но это так или иначе наука.
Right? So those elements being in place, now the application, that's called the art.
Те вещи, которые есть, они как бы есть, но наше применение это и есть искусство.
Right? So that means that's the consideration of applying it in a way considering the environment and everyone involved.
И вот в этом применении важно в том, что мы учитываем, что как вовлечено в этот процесс.
So that you get a particular effect.
Чтобы получить соответствующий результат.
Makes sense? So, therefore, we see is that the culture is not arbitrary.
Поэтому культура это не что-то опосредованное.
Right? It actually is based on a science.
Это то, что основано на науке.
So it's not just what people dream up at the time.
Это не то, о чем люди просто в течение времени мечтали, и оно как бы появилось.
The uniqueness of applying the science based on that particular time. Now that's what we're talking about.
The uniqueness of the appliance.
Appliance of the
No,
science. You know,
То есть
appliance,
уникальность
like
этого
appliance.
применения, оно может варьировать во времени. Нет? Уникальность применения этого во времени и есть то, о чем мы говорим. Yes.
Right? Does that make sense? So that's the art.
Это искусство.
Right? So since Krishna is interested in the interaction,
Так как Кришна заинтересован во взаимодействии,
then so much focus is on the art.
поэтому такое большое внимание на этом искусстве.
But just because we focus on the art doesn't mean that we lose the science.
Но если мы концентрируем внимание на искусстве, это не значит, что мы забываем о науке.
One phone call, Sony, is that one? They all have the same ringtone. Yes, so the taste comes in the interaction,
И вкус появляется во взаимодействии.
right? Not just in the efficiency of the application.
То есть не в эффективности применения чего-либо.
Right? Now, if there's a common science between everybody,
Есть стандартная наука между всеми.
right? So then that common science means that when you apply the culture, there'll be a common basis of the culture.
И эта наука заключается в том, что когда вы применяете культуру, то у нее есть основа.
Right? So you can get much more variety.
Вы можете получить большое количество разнообразия.
Right? Otherwise, then you end up with something very narrow.
Иначе вы получите что-то узкое.
Because even though it's the mind is working out things, the mind has to have a basis to go from.
Даже если несмотря на то, что это основывается на деятельности ума, то у этого есть определенная основа.
Right? In other words, the mind that's using intelligence then will always have a wider range of things it can do than mind that's not using the intelligence.
И когда ум основывается на разуме, у него есть wide variety.
Yes, wider.
У него имеется более широкий спектр в сравнении с тем, если он не основывается на разуме.
Right? Means you're trying to do something.
Например, вы что-то пытаетесь сделать.
Now, if the mind is controlling the intelligence, it will only look for a very narrow range of options.
Если ум основывается на разуме, то тогда у него есть очень ограничен, определенный.
Если ум основывается на контроле разума, то у него ограниченный спектр возможностей. Если ум контролирует разум.
You understand? The mind can be controlling the intelligence, or the mind is controlled by the intelligence.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So if the mind is controlled by the intelligence, means the intelligence will think of a wide range of options that are available.
Yes.
But if the mind is controlling the intelligence, according to the taste of the mind, it will only get the intelligence to look in that area alone.
I see, and it will be narrow.
Yes.
То есть либо ум может контролировать разум, либо разум ум. И в том случае, если ум он контролирует разум, то тогда по прихоти ума количество выбора, которое будет доступно, оно будет очень узким по сравнению с тем, если было бы наоборот.
Okay. So, since Krishna is working on the eternal platform,
И так как Кришна действует на вечной платформе,
you need to be able to get a lot of variety.
Должно быть большое разнообразие.
Basically, eternal variety.
Можно сказать, бесконечное разнообразие.
Therefore, it must be based on the science.
Поэтому должно быть основано на науке.
So, we see that nectar devotion is called the science, or complete science, of Bhakti Yoga.
Поэтому в нектаре преданности говорится о полной науке бхакти-йоги.
Right? Now here is something that is based on the devotional sentiments.
И вот, к примеру, что-нибудь основано на духовном преданном сентименте.
Right? But being based on these devotional sentiments doesn't mean it's not a science.
Но, будучи основанным на духовном сентименте, это не значит, что под этим нет никакой науки.
Right? That's where the sentimentalist will make a mistake, that it's just about feeling, we don't need all this knowledge.
И в этом сентименталисты допускают ошибку, они думают, что у нас нет необходимости в этом дополнительном знании.
But if you don't have knowledge, then how will you be clever?
Но если у вас нет знания, как же вы будете умны?
That makes sense? Clever means you artfully apply something intelligent in a unique way.
Умный — это значит, вы что-то искусно применяете уникальным образом.
Does that make sense?
Понятно ли?
Not so much.
Maybe example, yes.
Maybe some. Okay. The science is just the facts of how things work.
Наука — это факты о том, как вещи работают.
The art then will include the feelings that are there in applying it and the feelings that someone else will have in being also involved in it.
А искусство — это чувство того, кто вовлекается в этой деятельности. Либо и вовлекает кого-то еще в эту деятельность.
Right? In other words, we're people, we're involved in it, so therefore there's feelings.
Мы люди, мы вовлечены в это, и поэтому есть какие-то чувства.
So the art is applying the science to the situation, which also includes the particular feelings that are there or can be there.
И искусство — это
Didn't I always? Is there something that am I talking differently than I did the other years or something? What's different?
It's a little bit different, yes.
Subtleties.
Oh, it's getting more subtle. Oh, that's not bad. Maybe uses longer sentences that are harder to unravel.
Sorry.
See, because the difficulty is when you work in this level, you notice that there's either an understanding or not, but that understanding, you're not having to play with the individual's particular conditioned emotions. Does that make sense? In other words, it's above them. So then you can deal with the knowledge without actually having to, at that point, deal with the particular material desires. And then once that's understood, then when you drop down into the material desires, or the conditioning, then it's, how you say, there's more of a basis to work from. Otherwise, you're just pitting people's feelings and desires and attachments against, pure Vaishnava Siddhanta, which is not comparable, but it's what you end up doing. Does that make sense?
For me, it was very difficult.
That makes any sense? Selection. It did.
It makes, but it takes.
It's just like this. I could get into, culture, like before I said, if we go on our regular local Latvian culture, then that's our conditioning, so we'll try to apply that. What science is it based on? It's just the feelings that people in this particular region somehow or another have, from their background, their food, the weather, whatever comes up. The uniqueness is generated by this place. But it's not generated based on a science, it's based off the modes. Not that the modes aren't working on a science. Does that make sense?
Yeah. То есть суть заключается в том, что вот, например, у нас есть латвийская культура, и то, как мы в Латвии привыкли проявлять ее тем или иным образом, оно, как правило, не основано на науке, оно основано на гунах материальной природы.
Okay. Then, right there, we're dealing with attachments.
И мы имеем дело с привязанностью.
Right. And then those attachments then will bring up doubts or most likely misgivings.
И эти привязанности, они будут, из-за этого мы будем иметь дело с сомнениями и неправильными поступками.
Right? Does that make sense? Because the doubt means it's just not intellectually understood. Misgiving means you don't really want to understand it.
То есть,
Misgiving means I have an, all dogs are bad because when I was small, a dog, so there may, it's not a matter of a doubt. It's I'm committed to a particular emotional position.
отсутствие доверия. Предвзятости, да. То есть привязанность это значит, сомнение это значит я в чем-то не уверен,
Отсутствие правильного понимания. So misgiving means that I don't have proper understanding.
Plus, there's an attachment connected to it. If it's I don't have proper understanding, that's a doubt.
Значит, и предвзятость, да, второй элемент.
Right? In other words, doubt doesn't have a motive. Misgiving does.
У сомнения нету мотива, а у предвзятости есть.
So we're trying to create an environment to address doubts and avoid misgivings.
То есть мы пытаемся создать среду, в которой нету no doubts.
No, we're trying to deal with doubts.
Мы
Because
пытаемся
it's more intellectual.
работать с сомнениями, потому что это более интеллектуально. И избегать предвзятости.
In other words, you could say like this: doubt means it doesn't make sense. Misgiving is an issue.
То есть сомнение – это когда что-то непонятно, а вот эта предвзятость – это уже проблема. Потому что оно основано на каких-то прошлых наших проблемах, и мы просто заняли какую-то позицию и не хотим от нее отказаться.
Makes more sense.
Said that suspiciousness is a
Suspiciousness can be. Yeah, there'd be a suspiciousness of it, but there's a reason you're suspicious.
Подозрение? Опасение. Это может быть опасение.
In other words, in a misgiving, you're not using intelligence, you're just using feelings. In a doubt, you're using intelligence. Does that make sense?
Да, когда у нас опасение, то мы не используем разум, но когда у нас сомнение, то тогда мы можем оперировать разумом.
So our anarthas come up in the form of doubts and misgivings.
И поэтому наши анархии, они появляются в форме опасений и сомнений.
Yeah, it doesn't mean there is a local word. There's somebody. It's just like in Chinese, there's no word for God. So it makes it a little more difficult to present Krishna consciousness.
В китайском языке нет слова «бог», поэтому о осознании Кришны немножко сложно говорить. Но у нас есть аналоги слов вот к сомнению и опасениям.
Yeah, they have the supreme or like that, with no position like there's God. Individual who, is in control.
В Китае говорится там верховный и так далее, но именно слово Бог, оно как таковое отсутствует.
Probably the closest they would come to is emperor.
Самое близкое по значению это император слово.
You get something?
Because another thing is that I have a bad feeling.
Yes, bad feeling.
Bad feeling.
Yeah.
But it's an emotion.
Yes, an emotion. That's the thing. It's negatively emotionally based. Right? Well.
Плохое ощущение.
Yeah. Well, doubt just means it didn't make sense.
Сомнение значит нет смысла, а плохое предчувствие это значит есть какое-то эмоциональное ощущение, но нет этому объяснения.
So much of what fires people's passion or their interest or misgivings.
То, что больше всего зажигает какую-то страсть в людях, это вот именно вот эти вот опасения.
Right. So if they take it in a nice direction, great.
Если они в правильном направлении используются, тогда нет проблем.
But if it's not, then it gets in the way.
Но если нет, то тогда это проблема.
Yeah. So does that make sense? So we're trying to drop down into the application of, being able to practically apply it with having enough basis that you can discuss it more clearly rather than just issue-based. Does that make sense? Yes? Somebody? Okay. Then why don't we try like this? Because we'll try to show the cultural elements. Then are there any questions? And then we'll try to apply it to that.
Тогда попробуем другим образом, попробуем посредством вопросов на практике посмотреть, как это работает.
Right? Because then it'll have a practical application, which will make it more clear, more useful.
И тогда с практической точки зрения это будет более понятно.
Yes.
За десятки и сотни тысяч лет климатическая ситуация на планете очень сильно менялась. Менялись ли принципы ведической культуры в соответствии с трансформацией климата и каких-то внутренних трансформаций непосредственно самой планеты?
Due to course of time, thousands and thousands of years, climate was changing, and the how everything, the climate of the world changed, and was the Vedic culture also changed accordingly with that climate?
No, because they have the science.
Нет, потому что у них не было, потому что есть наука.
That's the point. Is the Vedic science can be applied anywhere.
Потому что ведическая наука может быть применена везде.
If you don't have the Vedic science, then you will be affected by the local aspect and function just on that.
И если вы не будете применять ведическую науку, то тогда на вас будет иметь влияние какое-то локальные вещи.
Does that make sense? Because see, as Krishna is controlling the creation.
Кришна контролирует мироздание.
And he's controlling through his energies.
И он контролирует посредством своих энергий.
So that control, that's a science.
Этот контроль – это наука.
Therefore, we can define that as tattva, or how things are working.
Поэтому мы можем определить татву, то, как все работает.
So that Krishna's influence applies on the same principles at all times, all places, all circumstances.
И Кришнин принципом применяется везде, согласно времени, месту и обстоятельствам.
So we can work on that eternal principle.
И поэтому можем работать на этом вечном принципе.
Or we can get distracted by the particular local detail.
Или мы можем быть отвлечены какими-то местными локальными деталями.
Does that make sense? So we can do either, because the Vedic principles apply everywhere.
Потому что ведический принцип применим везде.
There's no such thing as they don't, seeing that they come from Krishna, and Krishna is himself everywhere.
Такого не может быть, что они неприменимы, потому что они – это часть Кришны, а Кришна он везде.
Krishna is in every atom. Krishna is between every atom.
Кришна в каждом атоме, между каждым атомом.
Does that make sense? So you can always apply that.
Поэтому это всегда применимо.
So you don't have that difficulty with the practitioners of the Vedic culture.
У вас нет этой сложности с тем, кто практикует ведическую культуру.
Right? But if you're not following that, you're not connected to the science, then you're just dealing with the art, just people's feelings.
И если вы не следуете ведической культуре, ведической науке, то тогда все, что вы делаете, оно основывается на искусстве, которое исходит из чувств. Просто как бы чувствуете.
You're trying to get this, what do you call it? You're trying to apply your life to the situation. So if you have a standard to judge it by, you can keep it the same. And if you don't, then it will change.
И ваша жизнь, она протекает, и если в вашей жизни вы руководствуетесь каким-то стандартом, то тогда ваша жизнь, она более-менее размерена. А в противном случае это будет не так.
Does that make sense? Just like, let's say you have the flag and the flagpole.
Flag and the flagpole?
Yes.
флаг и флагшток, куда флаг вставляется.
right? So the flag can blow any direction,
Флаг может развиваться в любую сторону,
a little bit, a lot,
немножко или сильно,
but it always stays within the same parameter because of the flagpole.
но всегда остается в плюс-минус одном и том же положении благодаря флагштоку, в котором он вставлен.
Makes sense? Yeah. Yeah. Something else? Yes.
Сегодняшняя тема – это культура и наука. Скажите, пожалуйста, как себя отследить эти два параметра? Веду ли себя я культурным образом и поступаю ли я по-научному или просто по какому-то умственному сентименту?
Today's topic is science and culture. So how to track, am I acting culturally and scientifically?
Means, is it based on the authority of the Veda?
Это значит, основано ли это на авторитетах Вед,
Right? Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra.
Гуру, Саду и Шастра?
Then we know the science is there.
Тогда мы знаем, что наука там есть.
Right? But then the art, then we have to know is the culture is there. Am I applying it in a way that properly interacts with my environment?
И искусство, культура в том, что правильно ли мы применяем это в той среде, в которой мы действуем.
Does that make sense? Others are appreciating my dealings and things like that.
Оценивают ли все окружающие то, как я взаимодействую с ними?
Like the Vedic culture is designed to create nice interaction.
Потому что ведическая культура, она создана для того, чтобы создать приятные взаимодействия.
Right? Does that make sense? Yeah, just like, let's say, one sits down in lines, people serve prasad.
Например, если преданные садятся в линии и им раздают прасад.
Right? So the idea of that is to create an interaction.
Идея в том, чтобы создать взаимодействие.
Right? It's efficient, people are in lines.
Это эффективно, люди сидят линиями.
You have the proper amount of people serving.
Определенное количество людей подают прасад.
They know how to serve.
Они знают, как обслужить.
Right? People know how to eat.
Люди знают, как принимать прасад.
Right? There's a proper mood for the whole environment.
Есть определенное умонастроение.
Right? And so then that interaction is able to take place.
И таким образом взаимодействие между преданными, оно может произойти в этой.
You're eating, the servers are trying to see that you have everything, you have enough.
Вы едите, а тот, кто раздает, он следит, достаточно ли вам.
Right? So the idea is how to properly get it done, but at the same time is how to get that taste from the interaction.
Идея в том, чтобы правильно это сделать и увидеть, получаете ли вы вкус в этом взаимодействии.
Right? So when devotees look at it and then they go, okay, well, this is the Indian way of doing things. We're over here, it's more efficient to have a few buckets on the side and everyone just comes and takes what they like and sits everywhere.
Конечно, можно сказать, ну, это только индусы так делают. Мы западные, более прогрессивные, поставим бочки в угол и пусть все налетают.
Right? On one sense, you can say, yes, it's efficient.
С одной стороны, можете сказать, да, это эффективно.
Efficient means it doesn't require anybody.
Эффективно в том смысле, что больше никто не нужен для того, чтобы все это происходило.
No one has to be trained.
Не нужно никакой
No one
тренировки,
has to know how to eat.
и не надо знать, как есть.
And most importantly, no one has to interact.
И самое интересное, что никто не взаимодействует между друг другом.
You understand? So, therefore, it appears to be efficient, but it doesn't cultivate relationships.
Это, может быть, и выглядит эффективно, но не развивает взаимоотношения.
And as far as efficiency goes, it's not very good either.
Но даже если с точки зрения эффективности говорить, там даже ничего особенного
Certain
нет.
situations, yes, it has its validity.
Может, в определенных ситуациях, да.
If people are coming, here and there, then it works. If everyone's there at once, then the other system works.
Если люди подходят там 1-2, тогда ничего, но если все сразу налетят, то тогда не будет работать нормально.
You understand? And so that's something that because of the science, you can reapply it anywhere.
вы можете применить это где угодно, эту науку.
Yeah? Okay. Yes. Yes.
Четко, ясно и понятно, что такое ум, что такое разум, что такое искусство.
То есть четко, ясно и понятно вы хотите, чтобы
Да,
объяснили?
прям формулировкой.
Could you please straight, clear, and yes, explain what is что есть что?
Искусство.
What is art?
Art.
Искусство, ум, разум.
Art, mind, and intelligence. The definitions. She wants the definitions. Could you please tell clearly the definitions of art, mind, and intelligence?
Okay. Intelligence means that element that distinguishes between the commonalities of objects and the differences between objects.
Разум это значит определять между разными элементами их сходства и различия.
The mind is which accepts items and rejects items.
Ум, он принимает вещи, либо отвергает вещи.
And art means to apply the science to the particular time, place, and circumstance.
А искусство заключается в том, чтобы применить науку в соответствии времени, месту и обстоятельствам.
Okay.
Тогда выходит вопрос, а что такое наука?
Then the question is, what's the science?
The science is the nature of how things function and relate to each other.
Наука – это природа вещей, как они работают и взаимодействуют между друг другом.
Это все эксперименты.
Что, простите?
Это официальная наука, это эксперименты, опыты. Выходит так.
She says that official science is experiment and experiments, yes.
Official culture here is killing animals and say you have to do it.
Официальная наука здесь, в Латвии, это убивать животных и говорить, что это нормально.
Just
что это
because people
необходимо.
say that's what it is doesn't mean that's what it is.
Если люди говорят, что так есть, это не значит, что так есть.
See, science, the modern science, is using the faculty of intelligence
Современная наука – это использование факультета интеллектуалов
to find what's common and difference between things.
для того, чтобы найти, что общего между вещами.
And then they document that.
И тогда они документируют это.
Problem is they don't have a basis to function from.
Но проблема в том, что у них нет основы, на основе которой действовать.
So it's speculative.
Поэтому это спекулятивный характер имеет.
So therefore it's according to their own mind of what they accept and what they reject.
Поэтому это основывается на базе их ума, который принимает что-либо или отвергает.
So it's not that scientific.
Поэтому это недостаточно научно на самом деле.
Right? It's just what the information of the senses analyzed by the intelligence but decided on as important or not by the mind.
То есть информация от чувств, она как бы проанализирована посредством разума, но дальше уже определена, исходя из ума, нравится чувству, уму это или нет. Окей.
Okay. Yes.
Raj, can you say that science and tattva are the synonyms, the same?
Можно ли сказать, что татва и наука это синоним? Да.
Because the science means what are the elements, what are their qualities, what are their relationships.
Потому что наука говорит о том, что какие качества и взаимоотношения.
The art is applying that.
А искусство это применение этого.
The art's used in application.
А искусство оно в применении.
If the art's used in analyzing, that gets a bit weird.
Но если искусство в анализировании, то это становится немножко странным.
Anyone who's worked with artists understands this.
И тот, кто работает с актерами, понимает это. Или музыканты.
It's just this flow of feelings rather than you're dealing with the science and then apply that science in that flow of feelings.
Потому что, как правило, это поток чувств, а не наука, на основе которой идет поток этих чувств. Говоря о музыкантах.
I would like you to go back to the main subject matter about culture. As I understood from what you said is, I have understanding of culture which is based on most of my emotions. But at the same time there is proper understanding of this term culture.
Yes.
So, and the reason we can't continue this conversation because I'm stuck in my understanding. So could you help me to understand what to do with, how to transform it, that emotional understanding of culture to proper understanding and then move?
Переведите, может, сразу?
Я прошу, Махарадж, могли бы вы вернуться назад к основной теме сегодняшнего лекции о культуре? Как я понял с ваших слов, я теперь понимаю, что во мне есть понимание этого термина «культура», но оно основывается на эмоциях. А в то же время есть понимание, которое основывается на знании. И пока я не трансформирую свое понимание, то есть у меня будут проблемы. И эта лекция не могла продвинуться, я понимаю, из-за того, что я застрял в своем понимании и не понимаю, о чем вообще речь. Помогите разобраться, как мне трансформировать мое понимание.
Means the emotional side of it's fine, you just have to add the science.
То есть эмоциональная сторона это нормально, нужно только науку добавить.
Right? It's just like, let's say, people like to put pans on fire and move the spoon around in the pot. So now all you have to do is add a recipe.
It pans on fire, it means... Pants.
So it means does everything have to be everything has to be IT these days? Or what is it?
No, he just misheard.
Oh,
Pants.
Pants.
Pants, yes. Oh, pants on fire. Yeah, good. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Just push your pants around. They're on fire. Yeah, it would be fun. Keep you busy, right? You know. Good way to get rid of old pants.
То есть люди, они умеют ставить сковороду на огонь и мешать вещи, перемешивать. Осталось научиться готовить. Рецепты, да, добавить, использовать рецепты.
You just have to add the science. That's the beauty of Krishna consciousness, is that you don't have to change what you're working with, you just have to add the Krishna consciousness.
В этом прекрасность сознания Кришны, что не нужно ничего толком менять, нужно просто добавить науку сознания Кришны.
Because the Krishna consciousness itself is complete and perfect, therefore it can connect with anything.
Потому что сознание Кришны, оно полно и идеальное, поэтому оно может взаимодействовать и быть связано со всем.
But the acharyas give how to connect it. We don't just connect it any way we like.
И ачарьи говорят о том, как сделать вот эту связь, то есть не так, как нам вздумалось.
Yeah, so therefore, then it becomes, it's not actually a difficulty. It's just a matter of understanding, okay, these emotions, what are the emotions there for? What are they trying to express?
И в этом нет никакой сложности. Нужно понять, что вот есть эмоции, и как их правильно выразить. Что же эти эмоции выражают?
For instance, practical example. I was born in this particular culture.
Right.
And I remember from my childhood, like my mother sang the lullabies.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a certain attachment to particular melodies, and I still feel that emotion.
Mm-hmm.
How to add the science to that particular fact, which is in my culture.
Mm-hmm.
Я вот родился здесь, в Латвии. У меня, например, мама в детстве мне пела колыбельные. И есть вот эти мелодии, и я привязан к этому определенному типу мелодий. Как?
И у меня определенные эмоции. А как вот понимать правильно, добавить науку к этому, вот к этому?
Именно к этой ситуации, да.
Okay. Why is your mother singing?
Почему ваша мама поет?
We have to ask her.
Just to put the baby to sleep.
Yeah.
Для того, чтобы уложить ребенка.
Right. So she's singing because the singing creates a soothing environment.
Она поет, потому что пение создает определенную атмосферу.
Right. So you're creating the soothing environment based on the affection of the mother for the child.
И мы создаем приятную атмосферу, основанную на чувствах матери к ребенку.
And because you don't know what will work at what time, you just sing whatever happens, whatever comes out.
И так как мы не знаем, когда эффект произойдет, то мы поем просто то, что придет на ум.
Right? So in other words, the mother's being very spontaneous.
Поэтому мама была очень спонтанна.
Right? So these little songs that people sing or combinations of them or whatever will work at the time.
Маленькие какие-то песни, которые поются, или их комбинации, все, что сработает во времени.
So in other words, there's a combination of affection and intelligence or cleverness that's being expressed, that therefore the child feels comfortable and goes to sleep.
И поэтому здесь есть комбинация спонтанности чувств и разума, да, которые работают таким образом, что создает соответствующую атмосферу, в которой ребенок чувствует себя.
So the mother is trying to create a environment of security
Мать
for the child.
пытается создать безопасную среду для ребенка.
Does that make sense? So in a particular area, then they may sing certain songs or something, or certain melodies, or. But even that, the ladies may change the words as they please.
То есть в этой ситуации она могла петь те или иные песни, но это может меняться. То есть это могут быть другие мелодии или слова.
Right? There's no lullaby police.
То есть нету полиции, которая регулирует это.
You know, no SWAT team comes in breaking down the door because the mom is singing the lullaby wrong.
То есть нет ОМОНа, который врывается в случае того, если мама поет неправильно колыбельную.
So what we're attached to is the principle of say motherhood.
И то, к чему мы привязаны, мы привязаны к этому ощущению материнства.
So the particular manifestation of motherhood that you're used to, that's what you're attached to, but it comes from the principle of motherness.
И вы привязаны к этому материнству посредством который исходит из... Да, не могу при окончании.
Didn't we do this last year or the year before? We've done this.
Yes, but
Yes,
but in this particular example, it is difficult to add this ending.
Ness too. I mean, can you add it to something else?
To something else, probably yes. Childness.
Childness, childhood.
Yeah.
You have childness means the overall.
Или детскость, да. А здесь слово матери сложно добавить это окончание.
The motherness means the principle of what is the mood or the nature of mother.
То есть материнство. Да. Материнство это олицетворение природы матери.
Right? Motherhood means the particular ways, the variety of ways you can manifest it. So in other words, motherness is the science, motherhood is the art.
The word mother in our language.
It doesn't matter,
Yes.
mother, in your language. Try to understand the principle.
Yes, we understand.
You know, don't fall back on that the language can't deal with it.
Окей, хорошо.
It's
Есть,
like
есть
this.
принцип
Instead of
матери.
having an exact word, maybe you have to use a phrase
Yes,
or a sentence or even a paragraph.
yes,
But the point is you catch the point, you translate that
yes.
like that.
То есть принцип матери, и вот это качество самой матери, которое выражает эту природу. And you continue, I will add.
There is a principle of mother, and then there is a way to apply that principle.
Yes, in other words, every mother on the planet is trying to sing, is singing because it's soothing to the child, and the reason she's singing is because of the affection. Right? She's trying to create that security. All mothers on the planet are doing that, no matter what country, what social status, what background. So that's the motherness. Now the motherhood will be the specific. This one sings this song, that one sings that song, this tune, that tune. You know, how they shake, how they pat, how they swing, like that.
Каждая матерь на Земле, она так или иначе пытается создать условия безопасности посредством пения песен. Но это материнство, оно может быть проявлено по-разному. То, как каждая из матерей индивидуальным образом качает или гладит, или там трясет своего ребенка.
And that's based on the childness and the childhood. That all babies need that security, that feeling that the mother's there, but at the same time, as an individual, they may appreciate the song sung in a certain way, or a certain loudness, or tunes, or like that.
И параллельно этому существует то, что каждый ребенок нуждается в этой заботе матери. Но в то же время это универсальный принцип. Но индивидуально каждый ребенок может нуждаться в этом по-своему.
Да.
We can explain concepts, but we can't find particular words to.
No, don't worry about the words, and just make a phrase put together. Most of English is phrases because they don't. German has words. You know how you say. The inner door handle on the back left door. That'll be one word in German. Yeah. Then there's the outer door handle, then there's the next, you have all that. Yeah. So, but in English, they basically put together phrases. Don't worry,
Yes.
It works. Does that make sense? So now you're attached to that particular manifestation, but you can discuss your particular attachment with someone else who has a different particular attachment, because the science of the two is the same.
И у вас есть привязанность к тому или иному виду проявления, которое выражала мать к вам, когда вас убаюкивала. Но у кого-то есть тоже привязанность, но к другой форме этого проявления. Но вы можете обсуждать это друг с другом, потому что наука, которая за этим всем лежит, она общая.
Right? It means you can be talking about how your mother used to put you to bed by singing lullabies, and some from another country, another culture, where the tunes they'd use, the words they'd use are totally different.
Вы можете говорить о том, как ваша мать укладывала вас той или иной мелодией, но кто-то из другой страны, у них совсем другие музыкальные мелодии.
Right?
Но вы можете это обсуждать.
But you're both appreciating the same sentiment. Yes, no, that was so nice.
Но вы оба можете оценивать этот сентимент, потому что это было здорово.
Because what you're appreciating is that common principle.
И то, что вы оцениваете, это и есть этот общий принцип.
Because motherness is one thing. Motherhood will have a variety. But it's consistent with motherness. Should I talk in Swahili or something?
Because now you just use these two words that each of them needs to explain, to translate it. We need that again return to the concepts of each of the words.
Well,
Therefore,
okay.
it makes different to translate it this one sentence.
Okay. Well, all I did was shift it from one side to the other, but the same concept. Yeah. Okay.
In Russian we have one word to both.
Yes.
That's generally, it's just like in most languages, cleanliness and purity are one word, so it's hard to make a distinction between what you're doing with Achman and what you're doing with taking a bath.
Yes. Exactly.
What next then? Okay, so far I understood what you explained. Then that idea of culture, where is that?
The culture is that you do that. The culture is that a mom cares enough about the child to do that. Now, how that culture manifests, you have different varieties. Right? So you can have you can sing more, let's say, septic songs, or you can sing whatever comes to mind. You know, it's like, how you say, I was always wondering about Rockabye Baby on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall, and now down will come cradle, baby, and all. Why would a mom sing that to the kid, right? You know, because the words, it's like, you know, the kid is in the treetop nicely swinging, and then the branch will break, and everything fall. You know, it's like, you know, a ring around the rosies, pocket full of posies, you know, ashes, ashes, we all fall down. They're talking about the plague, you know. But the point is that's the thing, is anything that comes to the mind, the mother just sings it very nicely, and it has the effect, because all it is, it's a medium just to express their affection. So technically the words, the melody doesn't matter. It's just a medium to express. That's why in each culture you have all, you know, the lullabies are always something unique. It's just whatever comes to mind, because it's not that, you know, you went to school to learn lullabies. It's just you have to sing something, and so you make up whatever happens at the moment. So if you've heard something, great. If you haven't, you just sing anything. You know.
Вопрос был в том, что в чем же культура тогда в этом случае с этими убаюкивающими мелодиями. И Махарадж отвечает, что эти мелодии бывают настолько разные, и он привел пару примеров мелодий, которые на самом деле по смыслу имеют какой-то ужасный смысл. Там кто-то падает с дерева, и что там всех придавливает, или что самолет может разбиться, и все в пепел. Вот. И они могли использоваться в качестве этих колыбельных мелодий, но смысл заключался не непосредственно в самих каких-то словах, которые пришли на ум маме, а в том умонастроении, которое она пыталась передать, и поэтому это всегда работало.
So it's not about the technique, it's about the intent.
То есть суть не в технике, а в этом намерении.
Still, we are in the realm of emotions now.
Yes.
Now, where's the science?
So that's what we just explained. We explained the science. No. See, what you're missing is that when you're dealing with mom, the science is about the expression of emotion. It's not that science doesn't include emotion. Science is defining how emotion works in this case.
В нашем случае.
Yeah. So that's the science.
Okay.
Now the art is that what particular song and how she sung it. That's the art. But the science is moms out of affection will sing to their children to put them to sleep. Right? Because singing works. If it didn't work, they wouldn't be singing, don't worry. But it works. So
То есть на этом примере, чтобы понять, что есть наука, а что есть искусство, наука – это этот принцип, что мама, она поет колыбельную ребенку, и эта колыбельная, она работает. Потому что наука, она всегда ведическая, она всегда работает. В противном случае мама бы и не пели колыбельные. А искусство состоит в том, какие слова подобрать и как технически это сделать.
It's just like, let us say, you're talking about dogs.
Например, говорим о собаках.
Okay, you walk into somebody's yard and this dog comes running at you.
Например, вы в чей-то сад заходите, и собака бежит на вас.
Right? So you're worried about the nature of dogs.
Вы беспокоитесь о природе собаки.
You're not getting into the subtleties that there's male dogs and female dogs, and they will slightly, rip you to shreds in slightly different ways.
То есть вы не очень сильно обеспокоены тем, это мальчик собака или девочка, потому что они по-разному могут вас разорвать в клочья.
One will be a little more, mechanical about the method. One will have a little bit more emotion involved.
Потому что одна из этих собак будет более механистически это делать, а другая более эмоционально.
Right? So someone who knows the science of dogs can tell these differences and appreciate, though they basically look the same.
Тот, кто знает природу собаки, может увидеть эту разницу, но по большому счету они действуют одинаково, эти собаки.
That makes sense. So emotions are part of the whole science.
Эмоции – часть всей науки.
Right? But there's a basis on why they go. There's a nature, an unchanging nature. That's the science.
Но есть основа, на которой эти эмоции лежат, это неизменная природа.
What you're doing at the particular moment, because of the situation or your mood or these things, that's the art.
То, что вы будете делать в конкретный момент времени, это искусство.
It's just like
Эти
this.
эмоции.
Let us say you're doing the evening news.
Например, вы проводите вечерние новости.
So there's a way to speak, there's a way to use the microphone, there's a certain amount of time you have to say things in, to keep interest in everything.
Есть слова, которые вы должны сказать, и то, как вы должны это сделать в микрофон, и время ограничено.
But now let's say you're talking about some happy event that generally the audience would be happy about.
И, например, вы говорите о каком-то веселом мероприятии, которое всех развеселит.
You use your voice in one way.
Вы определенным образом голос настраиваете.
Now let's say the event is an unhappy event, that the audience would consider, not a happy thing.
Но если вы говорите о каком-то неприятном моменте,
so you would use your voice in a different way. The speed, the pauses, everything would change.
Ваша скорость и как вы говорите, акценты, они будут совсем по-другому расставлены.
So both of these are based on the science of how to speak and express.
И оба эти два случая, они основываются на науке, как выражать мысль.
But it's the art to know which one to use in which situation to actually bring out the feelings.
Но искусство состоит в том, чтобы какой из этих методов использовать для того, чтобы вызвать чувства те или иные.
So the point is feelings.
Потому что суть в чувствах.
But there's still a science behind it. That's why some people can do it, some people can't.
Поэтому за этим так.
Does that work, or you?
За этим наука, и поэтому некоторые люди могут этим воспользоваться и искусство проявить лучше.
Because the science, it's just like this. Like, I bring out the kind of funny perspective. If you really wanted to, let's say, in general terms, the general guys sitting around together with their beers, they discuss generally what? Politics and sports, right? We'll leave the women out of this one.
Среднестатистические ребята сидят, пьют пиво и, как правило, обсуждают спорт, политику, женщин мы опустим.
Right? They come up with amazing ways to solve all the world problems.
И у них есть восхитительная возможность решить все проблемы в мире.
And exact what they should have done in the sport to, win the game.
и методы, посредством которых в спорте можно выиграть.
But there's a lot of distance between what they're talking about and actually in the political or on the play field.
Но есть очень большая разница, то есть то, о чем они говорят, это очень далеко от того, что в реальности происходит на этой политической сцене, например.
Right? So the art is the ability to apply it.
То есть искусство – это возможность применить это,
But to apply the science.
чтобы применить науку.
Right? Because who's in the politics? Just anybody?
Кто в политике? Кто угодно?
Right? No, someone with that ability.
Нет, тот, у кого есть эти способности.
Who's in the sport? Someone with the ability.
И также и в спорте тот, у
So
кого
they
есть
know
эти-
all the options. The guy on the soccer field knows, 200 different ways to move the ball from one end of the field to the other, and then depending upon what is the nature of the field at the time, he chooses which one to use.
Футболист, он знает, как двигать мяч 200 разными методами, но в соответствии с временем, местом и обстоятельством он в соответствии с умонастроением выбирает тот или иной метод.
Does that make sense? But now the art is then to actually apply it, that his foot on the ball, on the grass, and the guy in front of him, how to combine all that so that he gets the ball from this end to that end, rather than the other guy gets the ball from that end to this end.
И искусство состоит в том, чтобы его нога на мяче, и он стоит на этом поле, чтобы переместить этот мяч из одной точки в другую точку так, чтобы другой не смог сделать это в его сторону.
Yeah, I would like to wrap up with these lullabies.
Okay.
Хотели бы...
A mother in Latvia, which knows only Latvian culture and it is emotionally cultured, how her singing lullabies is different from a Latvian mother who is really cultured and whose understanding of culture is based on knowledge. How these two lullabies will be different?
Well, okay.
Если говорить о примере с колыбельными, есть среднестатистическая латышская мама, которая знает мелодию какую-то, и она культурным образом действует. И есть другая такая же латвийская мама, которая действует культурно на основе науки, знания. Как вот эта разница будет проявляться?
The mother who doesn't know the science and the mother who does, is the difference would be the mother who does know, it's the mother who, it's either way. The mother who doesn't know, then when she feels inspired, she'll really put her effort into it. The one who, but if she's not inspired, she will not necessarily do it nicely or not at all, right? While the mother who knows the science, no matter what she feels like, she's going to put her proper effort.
И разница между мамой, которая знает науку и не знает науку, состоит в том, что та мама, которая не знает науку, ее колыбельные, они будут зависеть от ее умонастроения, и если у нее спонтанные чувства, тогда она это будет делать хорошо. Если нету, то она, может быть, не будет этого делать или будет делать это плохо. Но та мама, которая знает науку, она будет всегда стараться делать это наилучшим образом.
Therefore, it's just like for the baby, sleeping 2 hours and waking up and then eating and then going back to sleep for 2 hours, waking up and eating. For them, that's perfectly normal. For them, it's life's going on normally.
Так же, как для детей. Поспать 2 часа, встать, поесть, поиграть, потом опять лично 2 часа поспать – это нормальный образ жизни.
Right? So, what do they understand that, the mother's used to sleeping 6, 8 hours or 8 hours straight at night without having to wake up?
Но в сравнении с матерью, например, у которой сон – это 8 часов сна ночью или 6, не просыпаясь.
Let alone, washing clothes, cooking lunch.
Не беря во внимание готовку и стирание.
Right? So, therefore, for the baby, is when they have a need, it's taken care of.
Поэтому для ребенка, когда у него есть потребность, его потребность, она удовлетворяется.
That's what the mom does.
Это то, что делает мать.
Right? So, if the mom understands the science, she will always do it no matter what she feels like.
И если мать знает науку, она сделает это не в зависимости от того, что она чувствует.
Right? She may be grumpy, she may be yelling at the husband, but with the baby she's very nice.
Она может быть надута или орет на своего мужа, но для ребенка это всегда будет прекрасно.
Because that's the science, that's the nature.
Потому что за этим стоит наука.
But if the mother's only working on sentiment, then when that overwhelming motherly affection is there, she'll do it, and then when it gets too much, then she, takes that extra 30 seconds, to get up when the baby's crying instead of immediately, or does go to the next room to do something and just leave the baby there unattended. She'd do those things.
И если мать действует не согласно знанию, то тогда для того, чтобы проблема у ребенка была решена, и он плачет, то ей потребуется, например, больше времени, она будет более неохотно это делать, или оставит его без присмотра.
Does that make sense? So it's like...
Now I understand that principle is applicable to any aspect of our culture when we act just out of attachment or...
Yeah, it's only feelings. See, science includes the feelings, but feelings don't necessarily include the science.
Наука включает в себя чувства, но чувства не включают в себя науку.
That's why the modern culture is so frustrated, because they have the feelings, but they actually don't know how to express that and get what they're looking for.
Поэтому современная наука, она разочарована, потому что у них, люди имеют дело с чувствами, но они не знают, как их выразить правильно.
That's why we're saying, include the Vedic science of culture in your life, and then it makes everything consistent.
Поэтому мы говорим о том, чтобы включить в жизнь ведическую науку, и тогда все будет восхитительно работать.
Right? So it doesn't matter if you're singing what lullaby it is, whether it's some local thing or you're singing in Bengali or Sanskrit, one of the acharyas. It doesn't matter. The point is that expression.
И не будет важно, какой тип песенки вы поете, местную или на санскрите, или на бенгале. Главное этот вот принцип, что вы понимаете, для чего это происходит все.
Yes, like that, yes. So in other words, just like nectar devotion, it's all about how emotions are expressed, but there's a science to it.
Например, нектар преданности, он говорит о том, как эмоции должны быть выражены, но у этого есть наука.
That's what we're meaning, is Krishna consciousness applies everywhere, every time, every situation. You just have to know what are the primary and secondary elements.
И сознание Кришны, оно применяется в любом времени, месте и обстоятельствах. Мы только должны знать, что есть примарно, а что есть второстепенно, для того, чтобы применить это.
Yes.
Maharaj, when we try to apply foreign culture, like Indian
Foreign culture.
here,
Foreign culture.
For example.
Just like American cowboy jeans that were used to ride on horses to herd cattle to the slaughterhouses. Like that, you're saying, and as an example. No, okay. Because that's very much part of Latvian culture.
No, I'm not trying to protect our culture. I know.
Okay.
So I'm just, my question is, when we try to...
No, but why is it Indian culture? Why it's Indian? Where did Indian come from?
We are
Because you're on the material platform. No, you're on the mundane platform. What is Indian culture? India, who calls India India? Where does it come from? Yeah, okay. So the point is there's the Vedic culture.
Okay, Vedic culture.
Yeah, that's based on the Veda. Now, the different individuals in that part of the world apply it. And then we call that area India, so we'll say Indian culture. But it's based on the Vedic principles. Well, over here, anything of any structure, you have to take it back to basically religion or, how you say, administration. You know what I'm saying? Anything left over from the military or from the religion. Then you can say there's some structure. You know what I'm saying? So any culture here, it still goes back to religion. You know, it's just that people don't know the connection. Well, there, it's a little bit more easy to understand. Because India is not just a country. It's Punya Bhumi. It's the place where people are following some semblance of the Vedic line. Well, over here, it's simply the modes of nature get you to act differently. It means it's just all we have to do is what? Drive. How long do we have to drive before we're in the next country?
2 hours?
2 hours, okay. And then it's very different, right?
Not too much, but
Not too much means something like maybe they're growing vegetables there, or there's cows, you can see them, you know, as you drive along the road, or, you know, but it's different. You know what I'm saying?
it's not too much difference, for example,
It's just like the next, you know, what do you call the next country, next to Poland? It's not so different, right? One's from this side, one's from that side. That's why they're killing each other. You understand? On the material platform, we make the duality, and then we create the trouble. The Vedic is how there's a common science. Does that make sense?
yeah, that was my question. How to deal with these troubles when we have some external contradiction to culture? For example, in India we used to eat it with hands, and
Right.
here, if you start eating with hands,
Yeah, so you don't eat a sandwich with your hands. What about a burger? What about chips? What about asparagus? What about a cold drink? I get out my fork and spoon, grab the bottle, then hold it up.
but still this is the culture to use fork and spoon and some
Yeah, and where did the
situations
fork and spoon,
normal.
and where's the fork and spoon? You say normal. Where'd the fork and spoon come from? Some Latvian guy worked it out, or Henry VIII? Before Henry VIII, they all ate with their fingers.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I'm
The
saying?
mentality of local people nowadays is
That's another thing. So you're going to stop Krishna consciousness because we eat with the fingers. So therefore, what are you worried about? What's the application? If you're in public? Yes.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you're at home, you'll do exactly the Latvian thing. That's what I'm talking about.
yeah.
Many people don't understand.
Yeah, but
It's possible.
my example is only public example, not on my own life.
But
So for example,
but the point is you're applying into your life. What's the point? The real point of taking prasad. What's the real point? Using your hands or not? Or that is prasad?
yeah, that's the
Okay. But that doesn't mean that the form doesn't go along with it. The form goes with the principle.
yeah.
Right?
To better appreciate the prasad, we need hands.
Yeah, but if you don't, that means, why here? If you go farther east, they use chopsticks. You know, forks is too close, right? Because the fork and the food, there's only that much difference. Or chopsticks, and you got that much difference. So it's considered higher class. So according to them, Europeans are really low class because they get too close to the food. I'm not joking. They don't have a good, you know.
So how
To them,
deal with
Europeans are uncultured. They're pigs.
how to deal with all this contradiction?
No, but what contradiction is there? How is that a contradiction? What's a contradiction? Otherwise, how do I deal with the contradiction between you and him? He's wearing a T-shirt that's got writing on it. You're wearing one that doesn't. He's wearing kind of darker jeans that aren't brushed so much. Yours are, you know, how do you say, brushed to look like they're a little bit older. You've got cuffs. He doesn't. You know, so how do we deal with all these seeming total contradictions? Some people think cuffs are really out of it, and other people say this is like the cat's meow.
Sometimes it distracts other people's minds, so too much.
No, but the point. But what's your point? Why are you worried about distracting their mind?
Next translation.
He can't translate this. Haven't you figured that out in 2 days? If I tried to do this with translation, it would take 3 hours. Because he's not clear of what his point is. And I'm trying to get to what his point is. Once I get to the point, then we can discuss it nicely. It's not your problem. His problem is the medium, it doesn't work. Because the language difference is too great.
So my point is, not to disturb the mind.
No, yeah, that's your point. So that's the problem. The point is how to engage people in Krishna's service. But your point is how to not disturb anybody. We're devotees, but how to go along with the preaching, but not disturb anybody, because I'm really worried that people will think I'm okay God, rather than how to get them to think. If they want to eat with fork and knife, give them fork and knife. Do you put out fork and knife here? You put out funny little plastic plates or little plastic spoons. How is that cultured? How is that Western? You know, you're in a temple, and they eat that. You know, where are the forks and spoons? Where are the knives? Where are the plates? So you don't do it. You just do what you feel like.
So should we cancel forks and knives on our Sunday?
Why is it about forks and knives? It's about taking prasad. Now, if they understand it's about prasad, now what's special about prasad? Prasad is because it's been offered to the Lord. So therefore, people should understand that what they eat, they should be offering to God. Because some people don't have food. So you have food. Why? Because that's special. That's God's grace. They should know that. That's what's special, is that I'm eating this food. It's been offered to God. That's what they should know. Are we telling them that?
No.
No. We're simply freaking out because of eating with fingers or forks and spoons. We make it about the external. Then we throw out the external. And then we neither have the internal nor the external. No cultured person thinks a plastic plate and a spoon is that cultured. You do that down at the beach or something. You go to someone's house, you do something better. So you know what I'm saying? It's neither here nor there. So it's lack of culture. It's not a matter of this is Lithuanian culture. No, this is lack of Lithuanian culture. So the point is the focus is on prasad. They catch that. Then, once they catch that, they get faith. Then, dealing with prasad with their hands or not, then that's an easy part. We're the ones that have the problem with eating with our fingers, not the karmis. They don't have a relationship with the food, so they don't think like that. We're the one that has the issues, not them. Because like I said, we're talking about it being prasad. And then how it's presented, then that's there. But the point is don't fool yourself that how you're dressed is a representative of either Krishna consciousness or Lithuanian culture. You look like just an ordinary something I could scrape off the pavement. Really, you should know that. You know what I'm saying? You want to represent Lithuanian culture, be cultured. Dress nicely, dress like a gentleman. Talk like a gentleman, deal like a gentleman, serve prasad like a gentleman. But we don't. We want to be the upbeat guy off the street, you know, hey, yeah, we're cool. We're not weird, we're not too Indian, you know. And so then, who cares about that? Let us say there's cultural programs come to town, okay? Let's say the Scottish marching band comes to town. What do they wear? Jeans or kilts? Do we say, oh, that's weird? Okay, you know, you're going to pay 200 euros to go to the, you know, some, you know, high-grade ballet. What are they going to wear? What you wear on the street? They're going to wear leotards and tutus and funny shoes that got flat ends.
And that's considered cool.
Yeah. You understand? So everybody expects culture is different and unique. You have to be able to express it. You have to be able to support it. The people in the ballet, they know what's there, what's going on in that. The problem is we don't know what's going on. Now, according to Yoga Shastra, then, when means you're eating the prasad, so when you see it, that's the first stage of digestion. You see it, it looks interesting. It smells nice. You're starting to assimilate it already, because if you don't assimilate the food, you get zero benefit. Right? Now, when I touch it with my hands, I put in energy. Right? Chi goes into that, right? So that energy then helps with the digestion and helps nourish the body. So by using a fork, then you're separating yourself from that.
Yeah, that's the science.
Yeah, but we're never going to bring that up because that's, we're not going to do that because that would take some application. We'd have to explain that. If we can explain it from yoga and we're cool yoga dudes, then it's okay. But if it's Indian, forget it. Right? And then you chew it, and you're supposed to chew it so many times, right? Like that. I think yoga says 32 times. Right? How many times? You're going to explain that to them? No. What's the local thing? 1, 2, swallow. Right? You know what I'm saying? So, and so that's good. But what it is we think eating with forks is good. But chewing it 32 times because it's yoga stuff, not because it's Indian, not because it's devotional, because it's something that's new agey and popular. Because before this, you probably never even heard of these things. So in Krishna consciousness, come along, now you hear about it. It's not that you lived that lifestyle before you joined. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you're younger, but Prabhupada's disciples, they either lived it or didn't. It's just popular now. You know what I'm saying? So the whole point is it about the principles of Krishna consciousness, and then we have a culture? Or is it that we throw them both out because we can't distinguish between the principle and the culture? You understand? So the whole point is not a problem that you give everybody a spoon to eat with. The problem is you don't have faith in the whole process of prasad in our culture. That's the weakness. That's why they don't join. That's why they don't take up Krishna consciousness. Not because it's not viable, it's because you're not. People who have faith, in the days when it's, you can't, the guru can't be so strong, we can't be about, direct devotional service, pure devotional service, we have to talk all this indirect ways. The preachers in Russia went in, talked straight, just devotional service, guru, surrender to guru, pure devotional service, and a movement flourished. Well, in the West, it was falling apart because everyone was being so careful about not offending the Western feelings, saying it can't be done, it's Kali Yuga, you can't do this. And in Russia, they were doing it. They had 100 centers. So the point is what's eternal always works. And what's temporary, it doesn't even work at the time. Does that make sense? Around here, it's not if you get the fork or spoon. You show up in a, your top class BMW, that is when you impress people. So if you're talking about the culture, then instead of investing in your clothes, you should be investing in cars. You understand? So the whole thing is we have to be able to distinguish what is reality and what is illusion. That's what Bhagavatam opens with. The first verse. Truth is being able to distinguish reality from illusion. So if you committed to illusion, then we won't understand how to preach Krishna consciousness. Does that make sense?
Practical.
Right.
So, for example, Sunday feast.
Yeah, so then if it's a problem, then you put them in one room and have the devotees sit somewhere else.
Okay.
If that's such a problem. But this problem is you're only going to take the external from this, and you won't have caught the real point.
How we should manage Sunday feast, for example? Should we give forks and spoons to guests?
Yeah, of course you should.
Yes, that's my point.
Of course you should. They use it or not, but it doesn't mean we have to use them.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? But now if you use this as an issue, Maharaj said, I'm going to come and kick your butt. I mean, really. So if you want to try to translate all that, because we figured out his question was, it's because of the difference in culture, and the people are used to forks and spoons. Should we give out forks and spoons at the Sunday program or not? That was his question, and that took us, half an hour to deal with. That's why I said we can't translate it.
То есть причина, по которой мы не могли перевести, просим прощения, заключалась в том, что мы пытались полчаса понять, в чем же истинный смысл вопроса, должны ли мы давать западным людям на воскресном пиру вилки и ложки.